We've got a great program scheduled for this morning. We will discuss the state of both Milwaukee and Madison downtowns, and we are pleased to welcome Beth Wyrick, the Chief Executive Officer of Milwaukee Downtown, bid number 21, to help lead this morning's discussion. Beth and I will both present on our two downtowns before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID, moving forward in the future. And after the presentations, we will open it up for question and answer. So please think of your questions. If you have questions, send them through in the chat function, and we will have plenty of time for discussion after the presentations. But before we begin this morning, I would like to say a huge thank you to our sponsors this morning, Van Duren and the Bolt Companies, which is a nationally renowned construction right here in Milwaukee, and the law firm of Reinhardt, Berner, and Van Duren, who honestly, without them, we would not be here today. We ran one of these last year within the firm, and it was such a great idea. We found ourselves running a quarterly event. We greatly appreciate Reinhardt and Bolt for their support of today's program and are pleased to welcome Reinhardt shareholder and my boss, my board of director co-chair, Nathan Wadier, to say a few words. Nathan will be followed this morning by Jeff Neeson, the group president and central operations director of the Bolt Company. Thank you, Nathan, and good morning. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Jason. Reinhardt's honored to be a part of this new series, the Downtown Exchange. The primary goal of the Downtown Exchange is to create trust and relationships that lead to greater collaboration, growth, and investment in our communities. Reinhardt, as a business law firm with a large and long-standing presence in both Madison and Milwaukee, has a similar goal of helping our clients succeed in these communities. At Reinhardt, we measure our success based on the success of our clients and being able to effectively
have a great weekend.
The broad expertise, unique knowledge, and diverse skills of our many professionals, whether they live in Madison or Milwaukee, is a strength of ours. Sponsoring the Downtown Exchange allows Reinhardt to play a small role in fostering collaboration and trust among our cities and among the many talented individuals who are attending this series today. So on behalf of Reinhardt, I would like to thank DMI and Downtown Milwaukee for allowing us to be a part of the Downtown Exchange. Jeff Neeson will now say a few words on behalf of our friends at Bolt. Thank you.
Looks like somehow I got muted. I apologize. Thank you, Nathan. We are likewise extremely proud to be a part of this and looking forward to what this can do for our respective communities. The Bolt Company is, as mentioned, a national construction company. We've been around for over 130 years. We're a fourth-generation family-led, employee-owned company. We've had offices in Milwaukee and Madison for 30 plus years. We're proud of helping these communities grow. And while we're a construction company, our culture is focused on people, employees, customers, and community. So we are invested in our communities. We're anxious to help them in any way we can. And I think this kind of a program is something that can benefit both Madison and Milwaukee. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to this program.
Thank you, Jeff and Nathan, very much for your sponsorship and your continued support of both downtown Milwaukee and downtown Madison. I want to talk a little bit more about the series in general before we get started with today's program. So as I mentioned before, this is a first in a quarterly series of events that will help hopefully bring the two largest downtowns, Milwaukee and Madison, a little bit closer. The goal is to really share ideas on how the regions can work together to create that greater collaboration, growth, and investment in both downtowns. Like if one succeeds, we both succeed. But together, our two cities make up about 40% of the state's population. But to help frame how we're going to move forward with this series this year and hopefully for years to come, we are having Beth and myself, so sorry, I'm the one speaking for Madison, give presentations on what's happening in our downtowns right now. This will help level set the conversation so we better understand each of what the two downtowns are working on. Later this year, though, we're going to continue the conversation with a few more discussions and a few more panels. First, we're going to have on transportation. We're also going to have it on commercial real estate. And last, I'm really excited about big ideas. Big ideas we can move forward hopefully together. Hope you can join us for these events. Now, as I told before, want this to be a discussion. We would love to be live, and hopefully sometime in some future we can be live between the two cities. But for now, we really do want this to be a discussion. The best way to do that is to scroll around, see who all your neighbors are, your friends are, send them a chat, but also ask questions at the end. The best way to ask questions is through the chat function. Since I am a panelist, also a host, and play double duty today, I'll be able to ask your questions, maybe of myself, but hopefully of Beth. She's got better answers than me. Now, on with the show. I am honored and privileged to welcome my good friend. She's my mentor. She's just amazing for all you Madisonians that have never met Beth Wyrick. She has done so much for the downtown industry here in Wisconsin and nationwide, formerly on the International Downtown Association Board, and has done so much for our community through the Wisconsin Downtown Action Council and all of her years of work at Milwaukee Downtown, the BID 21. Beth, we are so excited to hear you this morning. Beth's going to begin with the state of the downtown Milwaukee. I'll follow up with Madison and we'll answer your questions. Good morning, Beth. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So thanks so much, Jason. You are phenomenal and wonderful, and I love your energy. And I'm being really cognizant of the time here, but I also wanted to say a great big huge thank you to Nathan and Jeff for your support, and to all of our colleagues out there. I just want to applaud all of you for your resiliency and for your persistence and your creative pivots during this past year. I know it's been a challenging time for all of us, but I also think it shows us what we're made of and what our teams are made of. So, you know, even looking at this state of downtown, it's sort of pre-COVID, during COVID, and what we're anticipating post-COVID. So I have to give a big shout out to my team, Erica Chang, who's recently left us as our marketing events and social media director. So the position's open. If you want to come work with our great team, Gabe Yeager, downtown events and environmental specialist, environmental specialist, Matt Dorner, who has been part of helping to create this series. So big shout out to my team there, and of course my board of directors. So looking forward to sharing this with you. I love this slide because it just shows downtown under construction. So who is Milwaukee Downtown? For those of you who are not aware of who we are a business improvement district. We're located in the heart of downtown Milwaukee on the beautiful shores of Lake Michigan, and we have approximately 500 commercial property owners who annually fund all of these great projects and events I'm going to tell you about today. This is a snapshot of our brand new office, which we moved into less than a month before the stay-at-home order started. So I'm here now, and I hope that all of you can just pack in here shoulder to shoulder very soon to see our new space and to take a tour of the avenue and all that is going on here west of the river and in all of downtown Milwaukee. Our mission is that we lead and inspire believers in Milwaukee to engage in efforts that build downtown as thriving, sustainable, innovative, and of course the vibrant heart of the community. We know that's really important. For those of you who were able to see Richard Florida speak as part of the Business Journal series, one of the things that really struck me with Richard was his comment that people want to be where there is peace in place. So no matter what we're doing or what we're going through, creating that peace in place where people feel grounded and want to be where they are is really important. Just to give you a quick snapshot, this is a little less than 3 square miles. Located just to the east is the shores of the beautiful Lake Michigan. We go as far north as Schlitz Park, for those of you who are familiar with it, as far south to Clybourne, or the intermodal station as far east as Prospect Avenue, and as far west as I-43 or 12th Street. So by the numbers, prior to COVID, we were over 90,000 employees in downtown Milwaukee. That was a 12.1% increase since 2010. The really lovely thing is 30% of all of our jobs within the city of Milwaukee are located within downtown Milwaukee. We've got a huge, high job density here, about 112 jobs per acre, and that was from a recent study done by the International Downtown Association. The other thing I love is that 1 out of every 3 of our downtown employees lives within 1 mile of downtown Milwaukee. So we've got over 2,500 business entities within those bid boundaries that I referenced earlier. Our residential population is over 32,000 and continues to grow. We've seen a rapid increase in that residential population. And I think that's where we're really fortunate, is that even during COVID and the stay-at-home orders and people working from home, even though it's quiet, don't get me wrong, it's still lovely because we have, you know, over 30,000 residents in downtown Milwaukee. And I do attribute to those residents the successfulness of so many of our businesses being able to thrive and stay alive during COVID. So big shout out to those of you who live and work in downtown Milwaukee. Our student population when school is in class is over 67,000 students. And what I love to tell people, and all of us who represent central business districts and downtowns across the country, is about our proposition value. So even though we represent less than 3.5% of the city of Milwaukee's landmass, we represent more than 22% of our city's tax base, and that number continues to grow year over year. So in this past decade, what have we seen? Well, we've seen over 3 million square feet added to the marketplace. Now, I will point out that 500,000 square feet most recently was just added by bringing on board the adaptive reuse of the Huron building and the brand new beautiful construction of the BMO Tower right here on Water Street, across the street from City Hall. We've had more than 1 million square feet of adaptive reuse office space that has been brought on the market, and over 8,500 new apartments. And we love to see that 11% of those are non-market rate apartments. And that's really a goal for all of us, is to provide more non-market rate housing in downtown Milwaukee. Of course, we've added over 2,800 new hotel rooms with more to come. Our tourism spending is about $3.7 billion in Milwaukee County, and that was our numbers from 2019. In downtown Milwaukee alone, over $212 million is spent right here in our nighttime economy. And as we all know, a lot of that goes back to our state. So that's why shared revenues is so important to all of us. We've had over $6.5 billion that has been invested in downtown Milwaukee in private, public, private and public developments in this past decade. Of course, we're very proud to tout who's in downtown Milwaukee. Many Fortune 500 and 100 companies like Northwestern Mutual, Manpower, WEC, Energy Group, Rexnord, and more. And of course, fingers crossed, our Zoning Neighborhoods and Development Committee this past Tuesday just passed a file supporting a TIF district to bring Milwaukee Tool and hopefully up to 2,000 jobs into downtown Milwaukee. And that's great news. So Milwaukee Downtown has been very focused on the past 23 years on a lot of core programs, primarily our clean and safe programs that are now being emulated across the country and candidly across the city of Milwaukee. We're very focused on special events, not events that we derive revenue from, but events that bring footfall to our retailers, our restaurants, our arts and our cultural institutions. We're very focused on our marketing. We're very focused on bringing customers into our existing businesses and our buildings in downtown Milwaukee. Of course, placemaking is extraordinarily important to us, as it is to many of you, creating that sense of place, as Dr. Florida had mentioned, that peace in place with a strong focus on economic development. We know that even during COVID, the war on talent continues. We know that there is a need for young emerging professionals, and we want them to make downtown Milwaukee home. Great work done by Matt Dorner, our Economic Development Director. Each and every quarter, Matt tries to update that investment map. I will admit, even during COVID, it's been hard to stay on top of with so much development going on. We're focused on grants and incentives, right in the passage, market data updates, and of course, working with our fabulous downtown brokers who have been hard at work through this past year. We've had a rapid response to COVID-19, and I've been really proud of our leadership and our team. Of course, we have the opportunity of working with the International Downtown Association, which is a great national and international entity where we have the ability to talk with our peers across the country and across the globe. Not only are we learning best practices from our peers, we are also setting the example and setting the pace for best practices in our central business districts. So what we did last year is we very quickly pivoted and looked to how we could best reallocate our resources to support our businesses and to keep some semblance of connection to community during COVID and the stay-at-home orders. Some of those things included the ordering and placement of our sanitation stations, as well as our social distancing signage. We've also altered our branding message, which was "Make it downtown to make it back." We developed some COVID-19 resource pages where our team was hard at work synergizing and synthesizing all the information and the grants and the programs that are available out there for our businesses, to make it simple, to give them connections, and to provide all of the options that were available to help keep our businesses open and to help them keep their employees employed. So of course, ongoing consumer and employer research was critical to us, and vacant storefront activation, so that we felt that our streets were still alive and vibrant. We developed a survey to assess our employers' plans for resuming operations and bringing our employees back. We felt that it was really critical to help our retailers and our restaurants so they had a better understanding of how they should be staffing up during this time. So we disseminated this survey in mid-June of 2020, and then late September of 2020, and just recently in early April. It targeted a sample of our downtown office buildings and our employers. So our respondents represented over 90 of our downtown office properties and employers of various sizes, representing approximately 17,000 employees, or about 20% of our downtown workforce. So our preliminary results of this most recent go-around indicates that right now, about 20% of our downtown employee base will have returned to the offices. And about 20% have also resumed some level of business travel. I think the upside of this is we're trending in the right direction. This is something that we're also seeing on a national level. So Milwaukee's numbers are really consistent with what we're seeing in some of our peer cities. And again, having this understanding helps all of our businesses better calculate and develop a tactical plan of how they're going to staff their businesses as well. So we also stayed in touch with our consumers during the stay at home and throughout this past year. So we released monthly polls, May through August, to really gauge our consumers' perceptions of safety and their changing habits around the pandemic. We wanted to know what was most important to them. We had over 4,000 total respondents, and most often what we saw top of mind was really those safety protocols that people wanted to see in place. And that is really what conveyed their comfort level in the restaurants and our bars. Of course, everybody had concerns about the pandemic. So it really gave us an idea of what our consumers were thinking, but also then we were able to pass that information on to our local businesses. So it also guided our organization and our leadership of how we should utilize our resources in addressing our consumers' concerns. Additional pivots and add-ons, and I will say our team was resilient, and they were committed and they were innovative in their approaches. We worked very closely, and hats off to the City of Milwaukee, the Mayor's Office, the Department of City Development, and the Department of Public Works. And thanks so much to Jason and other team members across the state of Wisconsin, where we got together on calls and brainstormed and looked at ways that we could amend our local legislation to be able to implement an active streets program, providing our restaurateurs with opportunities to move their dining outside where we knew most of our consumers felt more safe than being inside. We focused on initiatives like Come Back Cuisine with our restaurateurs who focused on special lunch packages for those employees who were making it back into the workforce, and with people at Colliers who helped us promote our local bars and restaurants who were there and open and serving that workforce that was making their way back to downtown Milwaukee. Again, as I mentioned earlier, our Make It Back campaign, welcoming people back to downtown Milwaukee with feelings of safety and an understanding of what our safety protocols were. We did so many other things, and people who are just starting to come back to downtown Milwaukee right now are looking around and they're astounded by some of the murals and by some of the lighting projects and some of the other activations that we've been engaged in our third spaces. We've been very consistent with our Open for Business vibe, making sure that our consumers are aware of those restaurants and retailers that are open for business and elevating awareness about how important it is to support those local businesses. In lieu of holiday lights this year, we still decorated the parks, we still had a show, it was all virtual, but what we found was really interesting is we surprised everybody with a pop-up drone show, and it really trended well with over 1 million views on YouTube and still going strong. So check that one out. That was my timer, Jason. So I'm going to
keep going. This is too good, Beth. This is too good. Keep going.
What's in store for us as we get back? Of course, we're very excited as our workforce is making its way back. We're very excited about all of the creative and innovative approaches that Milwaukee has been focused on keeping our workforce engaged. We know by getting people back into the offices, that sense of camaraderie, that teamwork is going to inspire us further. Yeah, it might be nice to work from home and throw in that load of laundry periodically, but I'll tell you what, there is nothing like the energy and the vibe of the office. And feeding off of that energy is critically important to us. Of course, we will continue with our messaging around our safety protocols. We will continue to remind everybody, please do your part to create a safe environment. And most importantly, please get vaccinated. We all want our economy to get back and humming again. We're going to continue to support our restaurants, our retailers, our bars. I'm really looking so forward to implementation of active streets next week. I'm thrilled because we are working with the City of Milwaukee in updating our downtown master plan. We'll soon be hitting the streets with RFQs for a design consultant as well as a consultant to work with us on community engagement, because of course we are extraordinarily focused on diversity, equity, and inclusivity. So it's a new day for all of us. So that downtown master plan is going to be a great and fun project for all of us to work on. We're looking at other activations, Rain the Square around Cathedral Square, downtown's first dog run, our entryway into downtown Milwaukee off of Pompey Square or off of the interstate into Pompey Square, working on public transportation because we know connectivity is still critically important. And of course, we'll continue to employ or survey our consumers and our employers. And of course, more importantly, focusing on that community activation. But you know what? We're here, like you are, Madison, and let's continue to tout this. I'm so excited about the growth and development, even through everything that we've been through with COVID, and I'm looking so forward to elevating not only Milwaukee as a great destination to locate and grow your business and live and raise a family, but as our region. So Jason and team, thank you again for the opportunity to tell the Milwaukee story, and it's a great celebration. So thanks for this opportunity.
Wow. Okay, Madison. Now you understand why Beth is my mentor. She is just outstanding. The energy, everything that's happening in Milwaukee. I am booking my trip to Milwaukee this weekend. And I bypassed cops, literally my favorite thing in the world, to head right to downtown Milwaukee, which all of us Madisonians do. Now we're going to tell that story about Madison. So we hope that the Milwaukee team can understand better what's happening here in our downtown. Once we finish with my presentation, we are going to have time for question and answer from all of you guys and have this be a discussion. So please think of your questions, send them in through the chat, or we love just to raise your hand, the raise hand function on the bottom of the screen. So here is downtown Madison. We're going to go through the same setup as Beth went through, but I want to make a quick note on the difference between our two organizations. Milwaukee Downtown is a bid number 21. Downtown Madison Inc. is a membership-based organization, and we do things just a little bit differently. We have a wonderful sister organization, Madison Central Business Improvement District. We are two different organizations. We have two different missions a little bit, but we work well together in everything that we have. So what is DMI? Who are we as an organization? As I just mentioned, we are committed to planning for and sustaining and growing downtown Madison as a thriving regional economic engine that offers best-in-class quality of life for businesses, residents, and visitors. And how do we get that accomplished? We do it in 3 ways. First, community building, events just like this. We run probably about 100 events a year to have all of our 450 to 500 member organizations, nonprofits, companies, large and small, who all believe in downtown Madison, to be able to get together. And all of their employees are our members. And so we run happy hour events, lecture series, you name it, whatever we can to make connections between our members. Second thing we do is advocacy. A lot of my work is advocating on behalf of our members to create a great, inclusive, vibrant, and welcoming downtown for everyone. We mainly work through the local governments for our advocacy. The last thing we do is policy research through our policy research department, and a great joint appointment from the Follett Institute, where the School of Public Policy here at UW, that helps with all of our work. Now, what is downtown Madison? A definition that is sort of ever changing here. Beth showed the parameters of what downtown Milwaukee is. Downtown Madison here, for those of you who know well, we see it as the Yahara up there to the east, and then to the west is Camp Randall Stadium. The area in the red is really what most people consider that central business improvement district, but the area in blue is Cap East, part of downtown that is seeing such exponential growth, which we'll go over in a little bit. The shaded area in the center is Madison Central Business Improvement District, which for those that know Madison well is basically the Capitol Square, the in the outer loop, plus State Street and a few blocks off each. Now, Beth the whole time talked about what makes a successful downtown. And for us, a successful downtown has four factors. It has a strong residential base that supports local business. It has a large number of employees working downtown in a wide array on different types of businesses. And it has a diverse set of events and activities happening at all hours of the day. Beth so rightly brought up the fact that $12 million a year is in their nighttime economy. This is big business. And it also has to have a healthy tourist economy. I think we were jealous. They were at like $3 billion in Milwaukee County. We're doing great, though. I know many of our friends at Destination Madison are here. $1.4 billion total here in Madison, second only to our friends in Milwaukee. Now, what was the city? How were we successful? How was downtown successful? Taking those four factors: residents, employees, events, and tourism. We have a really healthy amount of residents right downtown. As of 2020, this is not the newest census, just our information from late 2020, the estimates, we had just shy of 29,000 people living in Madison. Now, we are a college town, so 84% of those are 15 to 34-year-olds. But I will say much of that is shifting to the older side, whereas less people are leaving from campus after they graduate. Less people are leaving that lived in the area, and they're boomerang back more quickly here to Madison. Very, very healthy employee base in downtown. Just over 50,000 employees working in downtown. Obviously, a good chunk of that, about 35% of it, is government jobs through the city, state, university. But we have large private employers, just like Beth mentioned in her presentation: Unity Point, Health Meritor, SSM, Findorf, our great friends at MG&E, and then a couple of startup companies that are no longer startup companies: Eat Street and Zendesk, and one we should absolutely imagine that's been in the news lately, Fetch Rewards, which is a unicorn, is now valued at over $1 billion. I haven't seen said unicorn, but I knew I had to tell that absolutely terrible joke. So I hope somebody's laughing at that one. But you're really seeing these young companies that are started in Madison, like Eat Street. Zendesk started in Europe, had a large headquarters in San Francisco, and said, you know, we need to be part of this amazing, young, talented pool of people in Madison. Madison has the second highest highly educated 25 to 34-year-old population in the country. At just shy of 60% of those folks have a 4-year degree, second only behind Boston. And so really highly educated workforce, and companies like Zendesk are moving here because of that. We've seen that through Google and many other companies. Google just adding a whole nother floor in the Cap East section of downtown. We've also seen the highest inflow of tech talent in the country, 75% inflow-outflow ratio coming into Madison. It's 3 times the next closest city. So a lot of interesting things happening in the tech scene, health tech scene in particular, here in Madison, and that includes downtown. Now, pre-COVID, we also have that major university right in the center of our downtown. We are very lucky, like Milwaukee is to have Marquette. We have University of Wisconsin at Madison, a national leading research institution that has 45,000 students, 22,000 employees, and 451,000 living alumni who all like to come back, hopefully this year, for a Badger game day. It's $16 million a year in economic spending just at one Badger game day, and to have an 80,000 person football stadium right in the heart of downtown is fantastic. This does amazing things for our economy here in the city. Just that small footprint, the bid footprint, is 10.5% of the total citywide property taxes generated. We should note, thanks to our friend Rob Gottschalk, who's on from Vanderwall, who pointed out that in that small area of land, 50% of that land is non-taxable, right? Owned by a government and institution. So that other 50% is doing huge work for the city. As I mentioned before, $1.4 billion tourism industry in Dane County, and a quarter of that, $303 million of that, is spent downtown. Most visited locations, I think we've all been to the Memorial Union, which is back open again in a few weeks. Make your reservations, go get your brats, enjoy some spotted cow, and my favorite, Babcock ice cream. The Becky lime pie is the best, and yes, it is named after Becky Blank. Union South, the Alliant Energy Center, and the Henry Vilas Zoo at 700,000 visitors. To have a zoo downtown is also a great amenity. Come, we have a tour soon for all of our DMI members. Now, the vacancy rate was good, 5.89 for multifamily. Office space was at 9.05. It's already ticked up to 9.5 at the end of 2020, and actually ticked up again after the first quarter, which I did not add those numbers. The bids, business space, which is mainly those first floor tenants, had an 8.1% vacancy rate. Now, everything changed under COVID, and Beth started to tell that story. Prior to COVID, according to Madison's planning organization, the MPO, after a survey they did in June and July of last year, 78% of the employees have never worked from home. And now, during the pandemic, 80% of them, so complete flip, said they now work at least one day. 80% decrease in ridership, was anywhere from 55 to 65% decrease in pedestrian counts, and our pedestrian counters on King Street and State Street. Positive, though, there was more a B cycle. But what we're showing here is that, remember those four factors to a key successful downtown. You need employees, residents, visitors, and tourism. All of those came to a screeching halt about a year ago today. You saw that from these numbers, that people just were not working downtown like they were. The residents, because we are so dependent on the students and the younger population, many of them were not coming back for the virtual learning experience. They were doing it from their home. And so there were just less people downtown. Unfortunately, tourism, 71 events as of August of last year canceled. That's $52 million in lost direct spending. So it was a very difficult time downtown. We saw some closures as well. We need to be honest about what happened. 34 closures as of March 1st, according to our friends at the bid, 17 temporary closures, but we also saw 20 new businesses come in. And we also saw, like what you see in this picture here, the Streetery program, which Beth had a wonderful picture on 3rd Avenue there of the same thing, reimagining what we can use public space for. And this Streetery on South Pinckney Street that is run by Lucille Merchant Settle Down Tavern, a wonderful space. And I had a conversation with the mayor just a few weeks ago, and I said, over my dead body are those parking spots coming back. We need to animate space like this, and she wholeheartedly agreed. So now, what did we do to try to help these businesses survive now so that they can thrive in the future? We provided as much information on the relief funding as we could, right? The PPP, EIDL, we're all in grants from the state. We're so helpful and continue to be helpful for these businesses. As with Best Downtown, many of our employers are tourism-based, hospitality, and they really took it very hard. Needed to make sure they had everything they could to support and keep their employee base happening. We advocated for additional support. We advocated for consistent conversations with public health on how we can create innovative ways to open up. And that is a work in progress and still happening now, but we do have a new set of orders coming next week. And we advocated for additional city funding and then waiving of fees to really lower the barriers for everyone in downtown Madison to survive now. Now, we need to look to the future. How do we thrive into the future? We knew we needed a public-private partnership of diverse group of people that had maybe never even thought about downtown to get together to understand what's happening. And we formed, yes, I named this group myself, the Downtown Group, really an original name. Need to work on that. Beth's branding and marketing is much better, but the group has done amazing work. And through their task force and activation and programming, economic development and equity, They have come up with strategies, 6 strategies to how to move Madison forward, and we are working on implementing that now. We'd love for any and everyone to join us in the conversation as we look to build and thrive downtown. This group has done many things already, even before they got to the strategies. A community dinner around Martin Luther King's holiday, a Shop Madison campaign to really get people to shop locally. Huge thanks to our friends at Destination Madison. We did safer programming like the Hound Hike and Winter is Alive with our friends at Sustain Dane. We did an economic analysis of downtown, which we are going to show at our next What's Up Downtown breakfast. Invite all of our friends from Milwaukee. It'll be virtual at the end of May. We are running a pop-up shop program, which is getting very close to diversify the business mix of downtown. We did an office worker survey, very similar to what Beth showed. And then we did future scenario planning. What is downtown Madison going to look like in 2030 through 3 different potential outcomes? If everything falls off the cliff, if everything stays equal, and 2 positive outcomes, because I really like positive. So we did 2 different sets of positive outcomes. Now, as Beth said, there are a lot of positive things happening in downtown already, particularly in the development side. This is really hopeful moving forward. There's nearly 2,000 apartments either in construction or in the entitlement phase in downtown alone. You see a proposed 15-story apartment tower on East Washington Avenue, very similar to what our friend Tim Gochman is doing in downtown Milwaukee. It is a timber frame building. It lasts the whole block and has about 225 units. We have an amazing partner in Urban Land Interest who is donating a wonderful space, the American Exchange Building, the beautiful building that once housed the capital of Madison. There's your history fact. The capital for the state of Wisconsin for a short period. The American Exchange Bank is now home to the Boys and Girls Club, just running amazing programs right in the center of downtown. We have Jerry Frauci and Pleasant Rowland who continue to absolutely do everything they can to help downtown with their amazing gift to the new Wisconsin History Museum planned for that block location, which is known as Jeff 1 to us Madisonians. It's the Government Employee Facility 1 for all of our Milwaukee friends, a really good name like the downtown group name. And that building will come down and build a whole new museum, a wonderful gateway on East Washington Avenue to our city. And this really is our state's museum. So come on and check. Another random fact about downtown, the Historical Society who will run the museum has the 2nd largest collection of historical artifacts in the whole United States, only after the Smithsonian. We, as Badgers, no matter where you are in the state, should be proud of that. We also have another large project right on 300 State Street that's being proposed now by Core Campus, Core Spaces, $100 million housing project with about 500 units will help revitalize the block. One of the coolest projects in downtown, in Bayview, they are going to help the Bayview Foundation rebuild and think totally differently about the neighborhood, which is right in the center of downtown, using design justice principles. Many of those learned from one of our former annual dinner speakers, Brian Lee. This is such an exciting project with Bayview. We cannot wait, and the construction will start soon. As I mentioned before, in the American Exchange Building, ULI is proposing a catalytically changing building on the square that will really up our level of the game on commercial real estate here in downtown, right in the heart. Couldn't be more powerful. And last but not least, all of the great work happening in the something. I knew I was going to screw that up. The archipelago, that is a tough word to say. Nathan's laughing because he knows it's hard to say. The great project by the Corbs and the Brinks down on East Washington, across from Breeze Stevens, the incredible new soccer stadium for the Forward Madison and right near the Sylvie, really is the home of so much activity downtown. So there is a lot of positive, and that takes us to the future. That allows us to say, let's take this very tough year of 2020, where we had the pandemics of both the COVID-19 and the incredibly powerful movement of Black Lives Matter, that says we need to rethink, not just go back to what we had, but reimagine what downtown can be. It's time not to recover, but to reimagine. And there are ideas we have budding up in the surface that the communities are having conversations about revitalizing Lake Monona waterfront all the way from Olin Park, right in this picture across John Nolan. Expanding said, that facility, you look right there, Frank Lloyd Wright, one of our comparative advantages is Frank Lloyd Wright was born and raised just outside of Madison. Let's make that facility bigger for our downtown. Carry out that vision for our Alliant Energy Center campus, which land-wise is 3 times the size of downtown and is just on our edge. Rethinking public safety downtown, partially through the community-based crime reduction grant that DMI is a proud signatory on of $1 million of funding from the federal government, and many ideas like the multidisciplinary team approach through the prosecutor's office, MPD, and social work, public health that Milwaukee runs, expanding bus rapid transit, make bus rapid transit line, the first line east to west happen, and then quickly think about that north and south line, create a potential super TIF or end TIFs, multiple TIFs in the downtown area to help pay for some of this, create an arts district and animate projects like State Street and Hawthorne Court, complete these large downtown development projects which are on the docket, reimagine what State Street, a conversation that our community has really grabbed a hold of, and think differently about it. And then, most importantly, engage with the entire community on what they want to see in downtown. So that is our 2 presentations. We want to open it up now for your questions. We already have a few questions in the chat, but if you have other questions, send them in the chat, and you can also raise your hand and ask the questions directly of us. All right, so we've got a few questions here already. First question is, Beth, can you put the 20% return by May 1st in context relative to last year's survey results? You said you're trending upward, but it would be good to know what the percentage was of last year's survey data.
Yeah, I did see that, Tom, and I promise you I will get back to you. I'm not avoiding the question. I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right number. From what I recollect, it was around 18%, so maybe ticking up just a tiny little bit, but I will verify that number with you from our September results.
There we go. Thank you, Nathan. You'd think after a year and a half on Zoom, I'd find the mute button. Next question from Eve Galanter, former alder here in Madison, great friend of DMI. Which of the creative pivots you made during COVID, both in terms of practice and events, are you likely to retain and eventually please reach post-COVID status? Beth, do you want to start with that, or would you like me to start?
I'm happy to. I would say, of course, active streets, and I think, Jason, I didn't want to steal your answer because I know you have streetery, and we really brainstormed on this together. I think we recognize that anything that we can do to help support our local businesses and to help them add capacity, particularly during the summer months, is going to be really great. For us, we also implemented a full-time public service ambassador to assist our full-time homeless outreach coordinator, and we're definitely going to keep that position as well. And I think overlapping, obviously, with COVID was the call for social justice in general. And I think for all of us, it was really an awakening and a reminder that we have to do more to be more intentional and focused on just the negativity that inequality has on all of us, socially, morally, politically, and economically. So I feel like there's this new and fresh approach to diversity, equity, and inclusivity that maybe we got a little bit lazy on. I'm embarrassed to admit that. So I guess those would be the 3 things. It's definitely DEI, continued focus on everyone in our population, including our homeless constituency, and then a continued focus on helping to support shopping local with active streets. And great question, by the way.
Yeah, you know, I knew I should have let you go first because you just take exactly what I was going to say. You're so good at this, Beth, but you're absolutely right. And I think to amplify, particularly in Madison, we saw through the protests downtown last summer that we can't just pay lip service. That action needs to happen in the DE&I work to make sure that we have an equitable and welcoming downtown for all. We had many people that came downtown for the protests and say they didn't really come downtown except for this, and that is a problem. Because in Madison, downtown really is literally the central part of our city. It is every road goes through because of the isthmus. We need to make sure we create as many places that tug at the heart, at the soul for every resident of Madison. So you have to create diversity of events, diversity of retail experiences, of food, so that everyone wants to come down and make it their home. I would also echo Beth's statement about the streetery program. I think one of the most powerful things in a lot of downtown is rethinking how we use public space. I don't think we ever would have closed down parking spots prior to COVID. And now we are closing them down for different usages. And I think we want to be creative. My last thing I'll say is I've been very heartened by the amount of people like we have on this panel and like we have in this discussion that are caring about our downtowns and are bringing energy and bringing creativity and innovation to their ideas to the table. That I hope remains, that people really care about downtown and can help move it forward. All right, next question for us, Beth, is how can Madison and Milwaukee downtown groups work together to promote greater diversity in the workplace, greater diversity of people who reside in either downtown Madison and Milwaukee? And how can we work together to attract and retain more welcoming place for people of color who wish to come to Milwaukee and Madison and remain in Wisconsin there into the future?
Well, I know for us, again, I think it's just going to have to be intentional. And like so many of our friends across the state, and I do want to give a shout out, as I call my friends from WEDAC, Wisconsin Downtown Action Council. I think all of us learn from one another, and we can all be more intentional about diversity, equity, and inclusivity. For us here in Milwaukee, as we're working toward updating our downtown master plan, we're being intentional with bringing on board a community engagement specialist, and it will be somebody who is very focused on knowing and understanding all of our neighborhoods. And we know from a perspective of really planning and developing and growing a city for everyone, that everyone has to not only have a seat at the table, but have a voice. And I'm sure that all of us leaders of our main streets, our connect communities, our bids and our NIDs can work together with a more focused message on, as I like to call the headline, that Wisconsin will be the state where businesses choose to grow and develop because of their focus on diversity, equity, and inclusivity. So count me in on that conversation. I think Jason and I, maybe we can even talk about that being another conversation for another panel with maybe some other specialists around the table to talk about best practices and new and innovative approaches. Another thing that for us, even pre-COVID, pre-social justice marches, we were always aware through our branding campaigns and through our events that we put on for all of our residents in the great city of Milwaukee and in the state of Wisconsin, that when we're talking about our events, we need people who look like the people we want at our events to be talking about those events. So we really try to be intentional in our marketing efforts, with inclusivity. Spanish is a second language. And I know we have to continue, because no matter the list of things that we've done, it's never enough. So I'm willing to continue the hard work. And Jason, I know that you are too, and our other leaders across the state of Wisconsin. I just have a feeling we would all be welcome to join at the table. And Ron, welcome back. It's good to have you here.
No. Ron is with Milwaukee or Madison. He is a great DMI board member. We get to keep Ron. Ron is fantastic. We're so thankful. Quick answer on that. I agree everything with what Beth said. We have to be intentional. And I think one of the ways we can do that is by sharing best practices. And we hope that this is a method for doing that, that we have a much more concrete way for the two largest downtowns in the state to be interacting with each other, not just the two organizations, but you all that are here on this call. There's several DMI board members. There's several Milwaukee Downtown board members. That's what it's about. So hopefully we can bring people together. We also want to share best practices. Maybe it's like what Ron and the team and us are doing with our Beyond Compliance Task Force, which is working systematically to try to break down the barriers for people with disabilities in Madison. And there's been great work on that as well. Maybe we can use that as a model, and we can learn from other folks everywhere else. Lots of questions here on the HOP, not a Madison-based question, but more for you, Beth. Could Beth speak to the HOP, the light rail system in downtown Milwaukee? While ridership was affected by COVID, what is the prognosis going forward?
Well, our hope is actually that we will be able to utilize some stimulus funds to expand the HOP. One of our primary objectives really with any kind of mass transportation is connectivity to our neighborhoods. For those of you who aren't aware, there is an organization called NKE United that was started about 5 years ago, and it really looked at the way in which our near downtown neighborhoods, those neighborhoods that touched downtown Milwaukee could prosper from the investment and economic growth of downtown Milwaukee. And one way we know that we can strengthen those connections is through our public transportation. And our mayor just recently, and our commissioner of the Department of City Development just recently announced that they hope to include in part of the earmark stimulus package the expansion of the HOP into the Bronzeville neighborhood. So I'm hoping that that can happen. You know, again, Jason, you had mentioned earlier that we just have to be realistic about our economic situation right now due to COVID. And of course, with the utilization of mass transit, people are a little bit more hesitant, but we're beginning to see more ridership on our Milwaukee County buses and more ridership on our HOP. And we really do believe that one way we can strengthen that connection from the heart of downtown to our greater downtown neighborhoods is the expansion of the HOP streetcar. And we're extraordinarily supportive of that. We know that transit-oriented development does exist. It's happening here. It's had a significant impact, and we expect that to continue to pick up.
Yeah, great point. Obviously, you know, it's not an issue affecting Madison, but I do want to make a mention of the bus rapid transit program, which our city is zealously advocating for, as are we as an organization. I think the power of creating that first line from the east side to the west side, going right through downtown and through campus, is so powerful. And then quickly starting on the next line on the north and south sides, connecting the airport down in through Sherman Avenue or some variant thereof, and then going through the south side to get to neighborhoods that need to make sure we have strong workforce transportation. Getting people in and out of and through downtown is very important. Question on access to water. I think we could learn something from Milwaukee here. You know, Milwaukee does such a great job of accessing the water and of accessing to that water. The Milwaukee's riverfront, the lakefront. How are you guys able to do that? And what can we learn in Madison, where we have about 50% of our lakeshore is publicly owned, yet lakeshore access can be very difficult to many members of our community, even in downtown, which is an isthmus with only 1 mile of land. We still don't have very good access. How do you guys get that accomplished?
Well, in Milwaukee, and I think the same can be said for Madison residents, is we have a lot of very vocal voices. And in any of our consumer research that we have taken on, one of the greatest assets, aside from the preservation of our historic buildings, has been our access to water. So, of course, the leadership, and I can't help but, you know, give some thanks to the late and great Gary Bruno, who really took on the initiative of the Riverwalk District. And I remember very vividly in the 1980s, local talk radio talking about, you know, what a boondoggle that was, and, you know, what a waste of taxpayers' money, and what a waste of building a riverwalk along a sewage dump. And so the Riverwalk, I think, was very critical. And as much as I love San Antonio, I mean, that literally is, sorry, San Antonio, I love you, a sewage drainage ditch. And here in Milwaukee, we actually have 3 rivers. And then, of course, the prominence of Lake Michigan. And I think about Dean Amhouse and the work that he's done with the Freshwater Council. And, you know, the whole branding of the Fresh Coast and the celebration of our fresh water, which I call our liquid gold. I think we really honor and treasure that. I love what has been done to provide public access on Bradford Beach, but here's the reality. We all become victims of our success, right? I mean, I know that there is dialogue, and I'm talking with downtown professionals and urban design specialists, but you know, there's always this dialogue around when public access points become very popular, and next thing you know, you're providing food vendors there and activation and programming. You know, there is the fine line of public access versus commercialization of that. And I think in Milwaukee, we've done a really great job with that, providing access and pathways and really caring for our lands that are connected to our fresh water and celebrating that. But I think we can do better too. So we'll continue our work. And if we, I think it's another great panel conversation that we could have, is embracing our fresh water as an asset, because of course, it's one of the things that is going to make the Midwest, I think, much more competitive economically.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. And we are in a really great position being next to the Great Lakes and all the lakes we have, both in our downtowns. I think we are in a good position. All right, so last question. We've only got a minute or so left here. What are you most excited about for 2021, Beth?
Shit. The great comeback, I think. Sorry about that. I mean, I miss people. I miss my people. I miss my downtown with the hubbub on the streets, I miss the conventions. I miss Summerfest. I miss the farmers markets. And, I was so excited to see state fairs coming back. And, I miss the community connection. I miss live music. I really miss live music. So, I miss the convening of people just shoulder to shoulder at the night market and River Rhythms and Bastille Days. So I don't know. I think I'm looking forward to all of it. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in person and a glass of wine outside with friends. So, and of course, attracting more businesses, because if anything, I think Madison and Milwaukee, and of course the state of Wisconsin, we have shown the world that even through COVID, Milwaukee, even through the loss of the DNC, we will stand tall and proud, and we will dig deep, and we will kick butt. So I miss all of you.
Well, here to that. I think in Madison here, we miss the people. We miss this events. We wish this could happen live. We've got some amazing comments in the chat about tours we should all conduct with each other. Peggy Gunderson from our board, great suggestion. Lots of fun things to happen. What this tells me, folks, is that what I miss most is all of you and the creativity you all have in making downtowns alive and creating that power of proximity. So we are dedicated to continue this program for years to come, to bring each other together, to share best practices on everything, DE&I and economic development, to you name it. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you to Beth Wyrick, who gave an incredible presentation today on what's happening in Milwaukee. Thanks to myself, who gave a lukewarm, if fine, presentation today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. But we want to thank our sponsors. We would not be here today without Reinhardt and our friends at the Bolt Company. We look forward to seeing you all soon. Check out both of our websites for upcoming information, again, on the 3 panels the rest of this year. Thank you for all you do. As always, continue to support downtowns. Spend your money downtown, come downtown, get vaccinated, and have a good time. That's how we will all make it through this. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon. Bye now.